Hello, I'm here to explain about what happens to Catholics when they die. So just a disclaimer, this is within Catholic teachings, within Catholic theology, which not necessarily every religious group adheres to, but this is what the Catholic Church teaches about what happens to the soul after somebody dies. This is what happens to Catholics after they die. So the first thing is does their soul have any sin on it? And let me get the recorder going. Um, what happened? Does their soul have any sin on it? So if a sin has soul, you almost have to treat a soul kind of like a plate, almost like a dish. Does the dish have dirt on it? Well, easy way to explain it's almost like, it's like when you're doing the dishes. Okay, if the plate is totally clean, then it goes to the cabinet, goes straight back in because it's totally clean. It doesn't need to be washed. Okay, so if the soul doesn't have any sin on it, it gets to go to heaven and is in perfect grace for all eternity, which is very, very good. It's what you want. If you are a plate, you are clean, you want to go back in the cabinet. However, though, if the plate has any dirt or food or grime or whatever on it, well, then it can't go back into the cabinet. So the soul, if it has sin on it, cannot go back into heaven right away. So that gets us to this era where, yes, the soul has sin on it. Now, the big question is, do they refuse God's love? And this is a very tricky question because the church teaches that hell is real and people are in hell. However, we do not know who because it's individual choice. If you refuse God's love after death, then and that's a yes, then you go to hell. You are damned for all eternity. This is not good. This is not where you want to because once you're in hell, you cannot escape from hell. Okay, according to church teachings. But we do not know who is in hell. We do not know exactly why, but we do know if you refuse God's love, you are in hell. Um, who, who is though? Not sure. However, if you do accept God's love and you do not refuse it, well, then your soul goes to purgatory. And purgatory is kind of like a middle ground, almost like a limbo. Key though is that once you're in purgatory, you cannot go to hell. Okay, so eventually you are going to be saved and you are going to be cleaned and be able to go to heaven, but it's going to take some time because in purgatory is kind of like a dishwasher. The soul has to go into purgatory to be cleansed, just as a dish has to go into the dishwasher to be cleaned. Now, some souls might have a lot more sin on it, just as some plates might have a lot more food and grime, dust, and all that jazz in order on it. So the cleaning might take a longer time. So it could be painful, it could be time consuming, but ultimately this is a good thing. Purgatory is not a bad thing. But the big issue of this is that, yes, eventually you will get to heaven, but here's where it gets tricky. Is where there's this practice called indulgences that back in the day, Catholics used to buy with money. And if you had indulgences, the belief was that the more indulgences you had, the faster you'll be able to get into heaven. So the faster it will take for that plate to be put in the dishwasher and cleansed and go back into the cabinet. And just as the soul, if it has more indulgences, the faster it would be able to go into heaven and be cleansed of any sin. If you do not have indulgences, well, that's where the issue ended up being. The longer that you would have to wait and the longer you would take to get into heaven from purgatory. So it may not seem like that big of a deal to wait longer, but picture yourself that you're in, Renaissance Europe and life isn't all that great still for a lot of people. And the big goal, like it was in the Middle Ages, was to get into heaven. Well, waiting this isn't necessarily fun. And there's a lot of pressure from the church to buy indulgences to say, hey, you need indulgences to get into heaven. And essentially in a way to get money from people. And some people are starting to have some issues with this practice of buying indulgences. Now, indulgences are still used today, which I'll explain down the road, but you can't buy them. One of the big issues we'll talk about down the road. But this is what really led to kind of this is what really led to the Protestant Reformation because a lot of people felt that it's not fair to some who can buy more indulgences than others to be able to get to heaven faster compared to those who might be very poor and might not have the money to buy more indulgences. If you have any questions, just let me know. make sure you complete your guided notes for the Protestant Reformation. Alrighty, y'all have a great day.